Hello, everybody, and today was go to school as a famous person, which we waited till the last minute, but I think we pulled it off, right? This Friday update is going to talk about the homework, but the majority of this longer video is going to be on perspective. Um, for example, maybe you're an artist. You're going to look at things, and if you actually take an art class, one of the things they teach you is how to look at things. And think about that. The typical person doesn't even think about looking at things. They just look. But if you become an artist or you take an art class, they will teach you to look and see the shapes of things among some other, you know, more than just that. But if you take an art class, right, and you're learning to draw or paint, and you look at something, you're saying, hey, triangle, square, circle, cylinder. I mean, those are the things you start looking for in the photos. So we are going to have right here will be the handout that I am going to walk you through in the video. Now, when it comes to perspective, I think one of the trickiest things is that the news and our politicians and our teachers all have things shaping our perspective, right? And there will be stories that we want to fit everything to, right? So after you get through this, here's a little 5-minute video that I want you to watch. And you've probably heard stories of rock stars having crazy demands. And here's this little 5-minute video will show you the reason behind one of these crazy demands wasn't to be a jerk, but actually, well, you'll watch it and find out. You'll also see how with Van Halen and David Lee Roth, the media made up a story, right, of them doing almost $500,000 worth of damage to a place, as if David Lee Roth did that himself in one little room. But I'll let you watch that to see for yourself. So there's a narrative, right? Rock stars are brats. Rock stars are destructive. And of course, there is plenty of evidence to make us think, yes, there's a reason for that, right? But that's when you have to be super careful, because when you're looking for something and you're finding exactly what you thought, you're either incredibly lucky or you are on a train of thought that's been accepted by a group and you're just going to be fed more stuff that agrees with you. This is what Facebook does. This is what YouTube does. If you watch one conspiracy video, YouTube will give you 100 more. And the more you watch, the more you get. And you can see that that's going to take you down a hole where everything is a conspiracy. Same with Facebook. If you like liberal stories, they will feed you more and more and more liberal stories, or conservative stories, more and more. And so what it does is it limits your perspective. And the reason that I have you reading The Righteous Mind is that you can see that all of these different perspectives have value and come from a place where these ideas make sense and have value to us. So we can't just disregard them and say, oh, you're a liberal. Oh, you're a conservative. Oh, you're this. Because that is, I've heard somebody say it this way, that's a slur, not an argument. So if somebody is saying something and you don't like it and you just say, well, you're this, that's not addressing the argument. That's an ad hominem attack on the person, right? It's like saying if an alcoholic tells you, right, that takes light 8 minutes to travel from the sun to earth, and you go, well, you're an alcoholic. Well, maybe the person is an alcoholic, but if they're an astrophysicist and they study, right, things like the distance between stars and planets, right, and know about the speed of light, doesn't matter if this person is an alcoholic or not, because they're not talking about anything related to that aspect of their life. Okay, so watch that video. It's interesting. It'll give you a little look into some of the things that are going on with the rock show that you might have no idea, or basically any big stadium show. All right, now, when it comes to the media, where are you going to go, right? And if you're young, you've already bailed on, right, the regular news. I think the average age of a news somebody who watches the news at 5 or 5:30 is like over 50, right? And most people, I think it's between 70 and 80% get at least some of their news from Facebook, which is scary, but that's the system that we're in, right? So, quick question for you. What do you think is more dangerous? A hammer or a rifle? All right, well, let's go look. If we look at, this is actually people being murdered. Right? Handgun is up at, I don't like that thing. Handgun is up at over 7,000 for 2017, right? Blunt objects are 467. That includes the hammer. Rifles down at 403. Now, I'd have to go deeper into firearms type not mentioned. Maybe that actually raises the rifles up. But, and again, whatever you think about firearms, arms control, okay, great. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm not saying we should be doing anything. I'll do that later. If you look at what type of guns are killing people the most, it is clearly handguns. 7,000 to around 400. If you watch the news, you would think people were out with rifles killing thousands of people. So something is going on, whereas for the news, this is what we get, right? And there's all of this debate about rifles. And if you think about it, say we banned rifles tomorrow, all the Second Amendment, all this stuff goes in. Well, in 2019, we'd still have at least probably 7,000 people killed by handguns. But we don't have a handgun discussion. What's going on with that? I don't know. If that's an interesting topic, I say dive into it. Now, let's look at handguns in the first place, right? You put weapons together, we've got about 10,000 people being killed by handguns, which is terrible. And if you have somebody who's died or been shot, oh my goodness, right? I mean, one person is too many. Now, but let's look at other things. Right? How about cars, right? 10,000 people, guns. 37,000 people in 2017 died by cars, right? We don't hear much about it, right? Is one death more important than another death? I'm sure it isn't to that family, right? But there's something about cars, how ubiquitous they are. They're everywhere. We all get in them. We accept, for the most part, that almost 40,000 people are going to die this year in cars, and we're okay with that, for the most part. I mean, you will have organizations against drunk driving and things like that, and if you go into, and now luckily we have texting, which is worse than being drunk or equal to, something like that. But my point is, 37,000 people a year, roughly, are dying in cars. But it doesn't have the same impact on us. What is that? That's something that you can be looking at when it comes to perspectives. Why guns, not cars? Part of it might be the people who are dying, right? And if we have a shooting and it's a school, it makes sense that we are more worried about children dying than an adult. That's just the way we are set up, right? Now, how about that's motor fatality. If you thought guns were bad, cars were bad, well, now we got 70,000 people in America dying with drug deaths. Now, because of the opioid crisis, right, and probably in part the change in population, right, and views towards drug use, there's a lot of things in the news here, right, about it. But think about that. 10,000 guns, 40,000 roughly cars, 70,000 drugs, right? And then if you're going to talk about drug use, you can get into all kinds of things about the way people view, you know, so many people think only weak people use drugs, right? Or there's a whole bunch of, you know, poor people use drugs, or, you know, all of this. Here's a group we don't need to pay attention to, or if they just, my 80's my favorite. Just say no, right? As if that's right. If people just said no, we would have no drug problem. All right, so there's 70,000 in drugs. What's going on there? All right, and then my last, dang near, well, so almost 250 million are going to die of heart disease. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, not billion. That'd be crazy. That'd be like 70% of Americans. 250,000 Americans. This is a little bit old, so knowing the way we eat, this is probably higher. Almost 250,000 people are going to die of heart disease. And of them, and this is, I think, what is really interesting, look at that, almost 100,000 people who die of this, it could be prevented. So 10,000 in guns, 40,000 in cars, 70,000 in, 70,000 in drugs, 250,000 in heart disease. Of that, 100,000 people could be saved, right? Again, what do you hear about? What is going on, right? Is it because, and I don't know, right? But there's something about heart disease, things like this, that we're just like, And of course, that's a simplification, but there's almost 100,000 Americans who we could stop from dying. We could keep alive each year. And you don't see a lot of news about it. You don't see, if 250,000 people are dying each year, right? Let's do the math. 250,000 goes into 365. How much? Hold on. So 250,000 people divided by 365 equals, okay, 684 people die every day from heart disease. Okay. Put something else behind that, and what do you think we would do? 685 people today died eating M&Ms. Would M&Ms exist, right? 685 people were shot today, right? Holy crap. Can you imagine how bananas, right? The media, press, activist groups, if 684 people were shot today. And again, this is not about, I don't care about gun control. But the point is, there's something about the violence, say, for example, of guns, right? And probably a piece, too, of the victim, right? I mean, you're just standing there, somebody gets shot, where any amount is too much. 684 people a day die of heart disease? That's part of life. No, not really. Or at least, if you look at the map, that there's probably at least 250 of those people we could save. Again, perspective. When you're looking at your topic, right, what I want you to do is go past the obvious, which is one of the reasons that I have you reading, right, the book, is so you're seeing how these different value systems actually are important and can give you different ways of looking at things. Okay, this is part 1. I want to just be safe and make sure everything loads up. So this video is going to end. Click on right to the one below it, because now I am going to take trees in the lumber industry as an example, use it on the handout, and walk you through some things. So video 1 done. Click on the next one.